You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
Matt Lazowitz, and welcome to this week's episode of Bat Chat with Matt and Will, a Batman ranking podcast, where each week my co-host Will Nevin and I dig into 3 Batman stories, discuss them, and rank them on the big board, thus creating a giant list of Batman stories from best to worst. Will, how's it going tonight?
Today. Oh my goodness. It's going not badly. Graduated a fresh bunch of students on Friday, got grades to turn in tomorrow, got until the day after Memorial Day off, ready for some nice peace and quiet and relaxation and obsession this week. That looks like fun.
That is going to be an interesting time. I'm trying to remember, I've got 3 movies on my possible list for next week. Obsession is one of them. Another is a movie called Is God Is. Have you seen a trailer for this?
No.
It's a black revenge horror, like not horror, but like revenge thriller.
I do like a good revenge movie. Actually, I'll take a bad revenge movie.
Then we're going to talk about one in a minute.
I'm okay with either.
Because I saw something this morning that is fascinating. But this is about 2 young women who are on a revenge road trip to off their horrible father. He maimed one of the girls and their mother when they were young. Their mother is dying and has sent them to kill him. The mother is played by Vivica Fox. The awful father is Sterling K. Brown, which is surprising for a guy who usually plays good guys to play a hard and fast monster here by the look of it. Seems real interesting.
I think I saw a trailer or something about that because a lot of that was ringing some bells.
That, Obsession, and I can't remember what the third movie was, but also big screen re-release of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I want to see that on the big screen. But this morning, I did that thing that Matt likes to do, where I use my AMC A list to see a movie I have seen nothing about.
Oh, okay.
This usually leads to pretty, at best, meh content. Sometimes you wind up with a good one. Did you ever see Freaky Tales that I told you about?
I did not.
Okay, that was a great example of when this works. Today is another. I'm not 100% I'm going to pronounce the title properly because it's in Maori. It's, I believe, Merama. The IMDb logline is a Maori gothic revenge horror set in Victorian England.
That's a fucking Mad Lib if I've ever heard one.
It is from New Zealand. It is very light on the supernatural horror. The horror is the horror of colonization and the fetishization of cultures.
Yeah.
But beautifully designed and shot. And it does not shy away from the bloody revenge at the end of the movie.
We want a third act that really pays off on the promise of revenge.
Oh yeah.
I could not be more infuriated going to a revenge movie and not getting my revenge at the end.
There are beheadings and blood splatter and like not squibs because they aren't bullets, but this is not CG. This is, we are using practical blood effects.
Oh, good. It's been a while since we've done one of these. We had the week off and we're recording on a Sunday for reasons that we'll get into. Where we left off, I was in the middle of Fight Club and I finished that. Again, it's less than 200 pages. Tonally different than the film, which I was not expecting. A little lighter, a little sillier. Not bad, but also not very essential.
I actually prefer the end of the movie to the book. I think it is a better film than it is a book.
Yeah. The big twist was not so heavily foreshadowed in the film, where it was heavily foreshadowed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just finished a Dresden Files novella that came out, 200 pages. I blew through that in 4 days and back into the novels I've been working on. But yeah, I've seen 5 movies on the big screen in between our last recording and today.
My God.
Because, well, 2 last
Jesus.
week, 3 this week. Hokum, speaking of creepy, haunted horror, very, very good, creepy Irish horror. Damien McCarthy directed it. This is his 3rd film, and they're all about secrets and spooky places, and very enjoyable. Fuse, which is a heist caper movie starring Craven the Hunter, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Perfectly fine. Nothing particularly to write home about. Mortal Kombat 2, which, if you like Mortal Kombat, is fine. Carl Urban. I saw it on it was the IMAX movie this week, or the Dolby movie, because the IMAX movie is James Cameron's 3D Billie Eilish concert film.
He did need to make something other than an Avatar.
I can't see 3D movies without getting a migraine, so that one was right out. And well, yesterday for Mother's Day, I took my mom to see The Sheep Detectives, which was a perfect, cozy, bring your mom to the movies for Mother's Day movie. Hugh Jackman, Emma Thompson, voices from Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Bryan Cranston and Chris O'Dowd. Cute little mystery. Perfect movie to bring my mom to for Mother's Day celebration.
Oh, and as we're recording on Mother's Day, and you're listening to this at some point in the future, but you'll still have a mom at that point, having come from a mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Unless, Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped. I guess you still technically had a mother in that case, but just was not of woman born.
Or if you're in a country that celebrates Mother's Day a month earlier.
Right. Oh, yes, very true. Here we are being America-centric.
It's your podcast, so you've got every right to.
If the crummy audiobook I was listening to, well, it's not that crummy. It's okay. It's not great. Apparently in the UK, Mother's Day is tied to Lent.
Yeah, usually around then. But Lent is already kind of fluid in where it appears, so...
Yeah. I don't think I could handle having 2 holidays a year being just free-floating. That's bizarre.
Consider yourself lucky, Gentile. All of our holidays float.
I need certainty in my life. God damn it.
Fortunately, with my chronically bad memory, no matter what holiday it is, I will always forget it, so...
Let's just take a moment and say hi to friend of the show and Patreon backer Sam Hopper here from the UK, recording on a weekend during the day for us here in the US. So it's a little different energy for me and Will. I don't know if it's more energy, but it's just different energy. How you doing, Sam?
I'm great. As it is the evening here, I will bring that tired energy back into the podcast. And as a sign that I've been listening, I actually am recording from bed. So I will be ready to go straight down once we're done.
Excellent.
Well, before we get started with the episode proper, keeping things on films we've watched, Will, have you had a chance to see LA Confidential? I asked because I literally saw a screening of that last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Time is a mystery, but...
I didn't know I was on trial here.
Not on trial so much as watch it. I think you'd like it.
That has been come up before.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I have been getting a lot of physical media, but they have not done a re-release of LA Confidential in years. And given one of its leads, I don't imagine one is coming.
Very true. I found it in just a little hovel of Blu-rays that I picked up long ago when some big store went out of business and I got like 10 for $5.
Last week, I tried something which I haven't done yet. I've talked about it before, but I'm in the middle of my attempts to have seen 365 movies in 365 days. Not necessarily a movie a day. Sometimes I have to do 2 in one day to balance it out.
We're just worried about the average here.
Yeah, exactly. Last week, from Monday through yesterday, no horror movies. Because that's my default. I usually will default to a horror movie. And I did mostly comedies, except for Mortal Kombat. That's a dumb
That's
action
arguable.
movie. Yeah, that's true. But no, I did a bunch of just fun comedy. Monkey Business from the Marx Brothers, Legally Blonde, Airheads, which is my favorite theatrical experience. I know I've talked about it on CXF interview because Dan and I went to see Airheads on the big screen when it came out back in 96. And it was just me and Dan and a bunch of little old ladies who must have gotten bussed in from the local senior center and probably did every week to a matinee on whatever day this was. So it was just us and these little old ladies watching Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler as this band holding a radio station hostage to get their demo played.
Oh, not to interrupt, but to totally interrupt. Speaking of Steve Buscemi, that new movie with him and Sam Rockwell and John Malkovich, that looks amazing.
Oh, I can't
Whatever
wait.
that is, it looks great.
Them and Tom Waits too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be good. It's coming out in the fall. But yeah, that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that.
As tempted as I am to just go over the various other films that I've watched in the months since we last chatted, we have some work to do. So
we do. This is an interesting theme, and not one that would have jumped out at me to do an episode on right away. I mean, it's a logical theme. It tracks, and we'll talk about sort of why as we get into it. But Sam came to us with the idea of doing an episode around the fall of the original Black Mask and the rise of the second, at least before Flashpoint, because everybody involved got a whole new set of stuff with Flashpoint, but that's for another time. And that is sort of why this is not a theme that jumps out, because all of these characters who we see get radically different status quos in these stories are all reset back to their original status quo with the New 52. For good or ill, probably ill, because
we'll get into it.
And that's the problem with the new problem with the New 52 is just that you're playing the greatest hits all over again. But we'll get there.
Technically, we could have done an episode about Black Mask 2, but you've already covered Battle for the Cowl, which is this other big appearance. His only other appearances are a 2-issue arc in Detective, which was doing double duty as the question book, so it's very short and is set up for a story that never happens. And the other appearance is the last arc of Gotham City Sirens, where Black Mask 2 is about to do his last great thing, and then, oh, wait, the universe is about to be rebooted. I'll just go back to my cell and just wait there. Yep. Literally, that is what happens.
Oh, the New 52, everyone.
It takes, basically.
Yeah, mostly. We've said it many times whenever we talked about it. 85% of it was not too great. But let's start instead with our first story of the night, Backward Masking. This is Catwoman Volume 3, numbers 50 to 52. The writer is Will Pfeiffer, with art by Pete Woods, colors by Brad Anderson, letters by Jared K. Fletcher, and edited by Matt Idelson and Nachi Castro. The cover dates are February to April of 2006. Things aren't going well for Selina Kyle. Black Mask is back and is dead set on ruining Selina's life and taking out her friends. And Zatanna has told her that all the choices she's made on her path to the side of the angels might not have been her choices at all. So Selina is throwing everything at stopping Black Mask. What could go wrong?
Yeah, speaking of stories that just ruined everything that were dictated by editorial, Identity Crisis really ruined a lot.
And it's one of these things where if you look at Identity Crisis proper, it seems like the Justice League wiped the memories of anyone who learned their identity, the identities of the Justice League. And then when they got to the point of Dr. Light and they rewrote his personality, that caused a schism, and that was the end of things. But numerous books after the fact were like, oh, wait, by the way, no, they also rewrote the Top, one of the Flash's lamer rogues. And here we see that the Justice League went in and apparently Zatanna made Selina choose to be a hero. There are numerous problems with this.
A key one would be the timing of it, based on when things were going. She was already very firmly anti-hero at this point. Anyway, at worst, she was a thief, but she wasn't killing people. So to escalate to let's lobotomize her with magic is such a huge betrayal that, well, frankly, the New 52 probably saved all of the Justice League members involved, because Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And not to relitigate Identity Crisis, but having it in this story just really just puts a spotlight on the whole problem of this is really pulling at a central thread to, I don't know, the whole DC universe. If you can scramble somebody's brains with just a little sprinkling of magic, why didn't they do that with everybody?
Right. And we don't get an explanation in this story as to why they did this to Selina. Because if you're going to go in and you're going to do this to rogues in Gotham, why did you just choose Catwoman? Why did you start with Catwoman and not, I don't know, the Joker? It felt like editorial wanted this to affect more villains than just Dr. Light. And so I cannot imagine Will Pfeiffer was like, yeah, you know what? Let's choose to have Catwoman have been made into a hero by the Justice League. It strikes me as certain offices had to give up a sacrificial lamb to the project, and the Bat Office, they were told, yeah, it's got to be Catwoman, who is you're not really a villain or not really a hero. The other thing about it is when you look at the timeline, you look at the costumes on the Justice League, and you look at the timing of when all that stuff in Identity Crisis was supposed to take place. It's not like this was right around the time of the beginning of the Brubaker run when Selina became more of an anti-hero. Because she is a flat-out thief and rogue throughout her entire first ongoing. Those flashbacks took place years before she actually starts becoming a real anti-hero in the comics. So the timeline doesn't line up either.
It's a mess, frankly. But
it is. I wonder if it's a case, as we'll get to this, that Pfeiffer's plot, he wanted to do the story where she crosses the line and finally just kills Black Mask. And editorial was like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, we need some kind of rationale, so we're going to tie it into Identity Crisis. I can't figure out the logic of where that came from. It leaves me confused, especially on a story that otherwise, I think a lot of the other beats in here, when you get away from that, all the stuff with Selina and her friends and things work.
What's baffling about it is it feels like a way of going, oh, if we change our mind, we can redeem Selina by saying she had a mental break, but she's all right now. But when you consider just how awful Black Mask is, not just in this, but in previous stories, if anything, introducing this conflict in Selina just muddles what would be a more effective story. It's just... We'll get into it when we talk about Black Mask, but at this point, Black Mask is very much a Catwoman villain first, rather than a Batman rogue.
He's been making her life miserable since he returned in War Games. He was a rogue for her beforehand in Relentless, The Brubaker arc we covered, where he, kills Selina's brother-in-law and feeds him to her sister. And then Selina kind of does a Batman Begins, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you, and lets him fall off a building.
But this is the thing. We've already seen she's willing to let him, not necessarily kill him, but let him die. So it would have been believable for it to escalate, but introducing magic bullcrap is just... it annoys me, because if you remove this element...
No,
but Matt, isn't it great that this story can reference both Identity Crisis and war crimes?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that neat?
That Leslie was a regular supporting character in Catwoman until war crimes.
And it's just a nice little aside, like, oh hey, sorry that you heard about all that stuff, all that bad stuff.
Quick confession, a secondary theme of this is each of these books pay reference to stories that personally piss me off in the background. So
that's fair.
Not intentionally, it's just...
Sometimes it just works out that way.
Exactly.
I like Will Pfeiffer's run on Catwoman. I mentioned it when we did the Catwoman 80th anniversary special last episode, so Sam hasn't heard it yet, but I just realized that it's been a while since we recorded, so yeah, where I think Pfeiffer's run in general is kind of underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I started by just reading this arc for the podcast, and then I thought, actually, let's go reread this entire run, and it's surprisingly decent. I remember at the time people were just going, oh, it's gone terrible now because Ed Brubaker's off it, but no, there's good stuff there.
Following Ed Brubaker is not an easy act, don't get me wrong. No, you're not. Will Pfeiffer, he did a really good HERO, it was a Dial H for Hero book, but I thought that this is a generally solid run, and I think the stuff he does with Holly and Karen, with Slam and his son, who is a character that I believe Pfeiffer created. I think giving Slam this son and having that extra layer for his character was a good choice. But I think that, as with a lot of stuff in this run-up to 1 year later and Infinite Crisis, editorial was taking a very big hand in what was going on here.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that's the other thing that kind of annoys me, because skipping to the end, Selina crosses the line and in the confrontation with Black Mask ends up just putting the bullet in his head. She's fatigued, exhausted, then all of a sudden everything gets wobbly and the drugs have hit because the universe is completely warping.
Yep, the end of all of the April 2006 DC titles all ended with that final
splash of everything dissolving. And
we saw it at the end of Under the Hood. Yeah, all those books ended with hey, let's have a look at what everyone is across the now briefly reconstructed multiverse thing. It's just showing you how all of this had to be involved in the uber plot of DC Comics in what should have been a much more intimate story about Selina finally just having had enough with this guy who's gone out of his way to make her life miserable, and him ranting at the end. That's the evolution of Black Mask. When he comes back in War Games, he isn't the sort of mob, or he is a mob boss, but he's a bit more cackling and wild and crazy. The version of the character that Ewan McGregor plays in the Birds of Prey movie is very much the Black Mask from War Games through here, and the one that we're seeing now in Catwoman's current ongoing. I mean, he's plotting and planning, but he's also cackling. If he could grow a mustache, he would be twirling it.
Well, more than anything, he's a sadist who delights in his sadism. And,
oh, yes.
I mean,
well, that is the point of being a sadist.
Yes, the Department of Redundancy department is...
Brubaker makes him more of a sadist in Relentless. Before that, I mean, there were absolutely sadistic elements of the character. I mean, his first appearance, he's putting that makeup that melts your face on the inside of masks and putting them on people for revenge. But Brubaker makes him more of a sadist, and then the writer's room of War Games amps that up to 11 with what he does to Stephanie Brown.
And again, it's not just he likes inflicting pain. He loves inflicting physical pain, but more than that, it's emotional and mental anguish. It's not enough to kill Selina's brother-in-law. He must also force a sister to eat him. It's not enough to just beat up Slam Bradley. We're going to carve a message into his flesh.
Ugh.
And I'm not buying for a second the idea that Gotham doctors have not seen far, far worse.
I think the doctors are just marveling at his surprisingly good penmanship with a drill.
I would assume
got a full
that there
paragraph
is
on the chest and a smiley face, and there's no fraying on the edges where you'd expect the hemorrhaging and bruising to ruin it. So top marks, I guess.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, Joker, those guys, it's more about the spirit than the execution with them. Here it is very much a craftsman's work in the worst possible way.
I think you should have done that with a tattoo, right? Like some needlework, right? That's going to be permanent. The scars are going to heal, but you do that with a tattoo gun, and that's not going anywhere.
Yes, but you want Selina to see it and get a visceral reaction. A tattoo is, yes, that'll be more readable, but there's something about flayed flesh that is a little more effective. Oh God, I sound awful.
Well, we're talking about Black Mask. It's kind of hard not to.
Well, the accent, though, makes it sound so luxurious.
Of these 3 issues, the first one is basically Selina dealing with Zatanna. And then in the second, we have an extended scene of her with Bruce. And Bruce finding out that the Justice League rewrote Selina's mind. And the awkward moment of her being like, there's no way you know what this feels like. And it being like, well, actually, and him not saying it because he's Bruce. And he, can't admit anything. But, oh, wait, yes, he can because they erased his memory, too. And him seeming almost, maybe not more angered by the Justice League screwing with her head than screwing with his, but a pretty near thing.
Thing as well, Bruce is just... I was practically going, God damn it, Bruce, just be vulnerable for a second.
Yes.
But in his defense, and it's not much of a defense, I admit, he's still reeling from identity crisis as well. And he's reeling from the events of Hush, which ended on a bad note with them, where Selina I'd called him, but mistakenly said Hush, and the reminder of that horrible villain made him go, why would you say that? Why is that?
I forgot that Tommy Elliott is also in this story.
Oh,
this is a murderer's row of awful.
Next story. He's not in this story. He's in the next one.
Oh, okay. But the stink of him got on this story.
But also,
we're just dealing with the consequences of his existence in this story, and then he actually turns up next time.
And also, this would be taking place at the same time as Under the Hood, so he's dealing with Jason's return as well. This is a really bad time for Bruce. He's having a lot of bad shit going on right now. But as you said, when we get to the end here, I don't fault Selina for shooting Black Mask.
It's ironic that this is Black Mask's final sort of confrontation, but it really hammers home that he's a great antagonist for Selina, because throughout a lot of this, the assumption has been, he's this obsessed with Selina because she made a move on his drug empire and stole from him, and you think it's just the typical, no one steals from me. But during the entire confrontation, he just rants about, I don't care about any of this stuff. It's just stuff, I can get it back. But what we've got together, this is what's special. And he just delights in having someone that he can hold himself over, and specifically women.
That's definitely there in the DNA of the character. That's there from when Mensch first created him. He has had weird, uncomfortable, ugly feelings about women. So it makes a lot of sense that he would fixate on Catwoman even more than Batman. Also, because let's also be completely fair, this is a guy who is so egotistical. He might not admit it to himself, but he knows that he will never be number one apple of Batman's eye. He's never going to be the priority for Batman. That will always be the Joker. But here, he has a chance to make someone his arch nemesis.
Hell, he'll never be the number one mobster rogue of Gotham. That's Penguin's thing. But yeah, I can rule the east side of Gotham.
And I can make your life very miserable and difficult, Catwoman. So that's what I'm going to do. And for it, he gets a bullet to the brain.
I love that he's so confident that Selina wouldn't shoot him because, again, his ego is so huge, he assumes that he knows everything about his prey. It makes so much sense for Selina to shoot him in that moment that, again, I ask, why bring Identity Crisis into this? It just cheapens it.
Yeah, it is absolutely the whole universe has to be tied into this, all these events that are going on right now, and the story didn't need that weird flourish, especially because for where Pfeiffer is going with the character after the 1 year jump, you really didn't need all of that other mishigas. Pete Woods does a good job on the art.
Yeah, the art's good. And part of the reason that I'm so vocal about my criticisms is because it's so close. There's a reason the final chapter of this was collected in the Catwoman anniversary hardcover, because there's no mention of Identity Crisis there, so you don't have that in the back of your head. So it does read a lot better if you just ignore that one issue.
I love that moment in that last issue where after everything that's happened, she goes to Slam's bedside in the hospital and just says, just tell me not to do it and I won't. And she's hoping for any last minute reprieve from doing what she feels like she has to, and it isn't there. And she knows what she's going to do. She's going there with the express purpose of killing Black Mask. There's no doubt about it. Unless anyone has anything else, I think we're good.
Two last things, just things I like that Selina uses the giant Zeppelin blimps of the GCPD to navigate the city. That's a wonderful little touch.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out the bargain basement ass Iron Man ripoff.
Smart Bomb.
Smart Bomb, yes. Sam's villainous identity that is just, bargain basement Iron Man armor. That's fair.
And of course, he's really run by the cops.
And he actually really was a cop?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, since you haven't read the stuff leading to this, yes, Sam is a GCPD officer who was sent undercover into the supervillainous underworld of Gotham and wound up working with C-list Wonder Woman rogue, the Angleman.
Are we sure he's good enough for C-list? I mean...
yeah, possibly D. Yeah, I think, he popped up again during Tom King's earlier issues of his run on Wonder Woman. I think Tom King might have been hoping to do a Kite Man with him, and it did not work.
Yeah, Tom King bringing someone into his Wonder Woman run isn't a mark in his favour. Last thing that I want to touch to. I may not like issue 50, which is mostly just the Zatanna Identity Crisis stuff, but I love the cover for 50, where it's just Selina looking at an old poster of Zatanna's show. It's just a wonderful sort of thing that you'd find on like a Pulp Fiction paperback. It's gorgeous.
Those Adam Hughes covers on this run of Catwoman are tremendous.
The mugshot covers very solid as well.
I have that one signed by Hughes.
Nice.
He did an appearance at Dewey's. I got him to sign that, and he did a quick Catwoman head sketch in my sketchbook.
I love the cover for 50. I've just got such a soft spot for our main character is in a trench coat for some reason, just go on down a moody street.
So you have plenty of affection for Ben Grimm and his ability to disguise himself in a trench coat and fedora, and nobody realizes it's the Thing.
Ben Grimm, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
Take your pick.
Garfield, probably.
Hell, if the shadows and shading are good enough, I'll take it.
Yeah, I can see Garfield, walking down the street, going into an Italian restaurant that doesn't allow animals, going in for his lasagna and a trench coat and fedora.
I think it's probably time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that Garfield note, it's time to put Catwoman Volume 3, 50 to 52, backward masking on the big board.
We are at 714 stories on the big board.
God damn.
Number 1 is the post-crisis origin of Batman, Batman Year 1.
Still at a sexy 69, it's Batman Annual number 4 from Volume 3 every day.
At 175 is Images, the retelling of the first Joker story by Denny O'Neil and Brett Blevins. At 350 is Batman Chronicles 11, the Elseworlds Chronicles issue with the Batman of Berlin.
Coming in real high, not nearly as close to the bottom as it once was. At 420, it's Detective Comics number 58, one of the most perfect frame-ups.
At 525 is The Werewolf from Krypton, the world's finest story where Superman and Batman fight a werewolf from Krypton. And all the way at the bottom, at 714, it's 3 Jokers.
Dog turd of a story.
I live in fear of the day that you put something below 3 Jokers.
Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? I don't think so. This is tricky. Because I think there are good moments in here. I like a lot of the character stuff with Selina and her friends. I like that last issue. It's all the identity crisis stuff that it has to reckon with. It's the same reason why Under the Red Hood is lower than it, I think, is often considered when people aren't thinking about the whole entirety of the story, because it's like, why do we have all this stuff with the Secret Society of Supervillains in here? We don't need this for this story to do what it wants to do.
It's arguably worse here because with this being a shorter 3 issues, it means it's a much bigger distraction.
So, I mean, I think that does say that 390 Under the Red Hood is the ceiling, and we're working down from there. I don't think it's up there, but I think we can't go higher than Under the Red Hood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not in problematic territory because it's
no,
it's not. There's nothing problematic in here. Just some dumb stuff.
I mean, I actually enjoyed reading it, other than the identity crisis stuff. So
yeah, I think it's.
Does it beat Heart of Hush at 417?
Ooh, that's a good pick.
That is. This is more compact. Yeah, I think we can go above Heart of Hush. So that puts us between 390 and 417. That's it's a nice little range. Probably closer to 417 than 390.
Maybe under War Jokes and Riddles?
Yeah, in between War Jokes and Riddles and the Batwoman Wonder Woman story. Yeah, I think that works. So the new 412.
And for all of you Bat fans out there wondering, if you didn't know, the title here is a reference to the idea that you could hide a message in a recording if you just play the recording backward, and that's bullshit.
Yes,
it's bullshit.
If you follow what people have actually looked at when investigating this, it's the audio equivalent of pareidolia, the thing where you see images, the mind conjures images.
Yeah.
The mind
faces and whatnot. Right. It's so easy. All you need is sphere in the right place, and it's easy.
Yeah, and it's the same with backward masking on tapes. You're hearing things because you're expecting to hear something, but there really is no way to actually backward mask in any logical or practical way.
I mean, if you want an example of that, just take some random garbled audio and put subtitles on, write something, and if you show that to someone, their mind will try to make it fit it, even if it's complete gibberish.
Yeah.
Stop believing in bullshit, people. Let's do better.
Our second story of the night is Life After Death. This is Batman Volume 1, numbers 692 to 697. Story and pencils are by Tony S. Daniel, with inks by Sandu Floria, Norm Rapmond, and Daniel. Colors by Ian Hannon, letters by Jared K. Fletcher, and edited by Mike Martz and Janel Aslan. The cover dates are December of 2009 to May of 2010. In the wake of Bruce Wayne's death, a new Black Mask has taken control of Gotham's underworld and has claimed an area of Gotham called Devil's Square as his personal fiefdom. Dick Grayson, now Batman, is looking to take down Black Mask before things get worse. But there are all sorts of other problems, including Black Mask's army of mind-controlled stooges, the return of the Falcone crime family, and the day-to-day personal problems of leading a double life. But Dick will do what needs to be done. He will stop Black Mask and learn his true identity.
Well, this is a wonderful example of the problem that you sometimes get when you have the writer and artist pulling double duty. And it's very rare for it to be a Darwin Cook where it just goes. And it's not to say that he's a bad writer or artist. It's just when you're doing both, the temptation is to put all of your ideas on there because, hey, I'm the one drawing it, so I know what I can cope with in terms of workload. Ostensibly, this should just be a very simple mob story of Dick having to deal with, well, one of the first Batman problems of organized crime. But it's so overstuffed. The new Black Mask in itself is one thing, but he's also working with Hugo Strange, Dr. Death, Fright, who is a weird...
Yeah, a character who'd appeared really once before in a Judd Winnick, Dustin Nguyen Scarecrow story as Scarecrow's assistant who tried to take over from him and turned him into the Scare Beast, which that is, again, one of those better forgotten ideas where Scarecrow had a Bane Hulk persona for a little while.
I think we should take more elements from Judd Winnick Batman books. That was a real halcyon run.
That would be a fine sort of maypole to put your story around in itself. But now we also have the return of the Falcons, which is one of those wonderful wells that gets worse the more you try to drill into it. I understand the temptation because, the Falcons were one of Bruce's first things and Dick is taking one up, so I understand the temptation, but no. On top of that, you have the Penguin and the leading their own faction of organized crime, which is a hat on a hat on a hat.
Eddie, let's not forget Riddler starting to turn back into the Riddler as opposed to Edward Nygma, private investigator.
We've got to revert that status quo, set that up. And also, Black Mask has got a new legacy version of the Reaper working with him. Yay!
No, and that's the problem. Not even the legacy version of the Reaper. This is taking Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' Night of the Reaper, the Holocaust survivor who was hunting escaped Nazi war criminals, and turning him into a flat-out mind-controlled supervillain, which is made me. I thought that was a poor decision in my opinion.
Yeah, very much I want to use this character design and not thinking about the implications of bringing this character into this.
It would have been better to use the Batman Year 2 Reaper, Judson Caspian, than it would be to use Dr. Greuner from Night of the Reaper, because Judson Caspian was just the vigilante who had a Grim Reaper shtick. There isn't the, this guy was a haunted survivor of the Holocaust who was broken by the horrors that occurred to him. It's tacky at best.
Which also brings us to the other big story element, that this new Black Mask is brainwashing people to do crime for him. And we've got to fit in Dick getting used to being Batman in Bruce's absence and how other people react to him in the role.
And factoring in the stuff going on in Streets of Gotham with Tommy Elliott having taken Bruce Wayne's face and the Bat family basically keeping him locked up in the Batcave and just trotting him out to indicate that Bruce Wayne isn't dead.
It's ambitious to put all of these into your first arc.
I mean, listen, I will give it this. It is better than Daniel's first attempt at story and art, which was Battle for the Cowl.
Fair.
The characters are more in character as to what you'd expect here than they were there. Here we do not have Damian picking up teenage girls and taking them for a ride in the Batmobile.
This is the weird thing about this story, because the plot is overstuffed, but it does have a lot of character moments I really appreciate. Damian in particular, since he's such a new acquisition, I love the choice to have Dick just put him on detective work, not to keep him uninvolved, but just to figure out where he is into that. And obviously, Damian is full of himself and is happy to trot out that he's figured out what this chemical compound is. And then in the background, Dick is talking to Alfred. Oh, I figured that out yesterday, but I needed him to. So, of course, what we get given is also paired up with when Damian saves Dick after he's spent time as a false face. He comes across Dick's body and utters the words, "epic fail." That, ow, no. I know he's a teenager, but of all the teen characters in all of DC, the one person who should not be using video game slang is Damian Wayne.
Only in Wayne Family Adventures.
Yes.
And even then, only in specific contexts.
Yes, while playing video games with the other Robins.
Yes. But again, this is very early Damian, and as we've seen in one of my previous appearances, I don't want this Damian Wayne to be immediately taken off the page, so it's a marked improvement there.
True.
But in terms of character moments I've enjoyed, there's a lot of good stuff with the temptation with a legacy character is to have them worry about, oh, am I as skilled as the hero who came before? Dick's skills aren't in question. Where he struggles is that he doesn't have the sort of presence. So when he's first talking with Gordon, he asks him if I can take this mask to analyze it, and Gordon just tells him, Batman doesn't need to ask my permission. Which is just, yeah.
I think there are moments here where Dick is trying to be more of a Bruce Wayne Batman, and it doesn't work for him.
The earliest one of them is him trying to convince Selina to work with them. I work with Bruce because we've got a relationship. And when he initially balks at her saying, look, I'll help you if you pay us $25,000, you're mad. And Selina just smiles and goes, Alfred still has my Swiss bank on file, so just tell him to send it to us.
You hit the nail on the head at the beginning by just pointing out just how much is in this story. There is too much going on here.
And you didn't need most of it.
No.
The stuff with he's got Huntress working for him and they're kissing a doorway to avoid suspicion, which means things are going to be rough between him and Barbara. This just wastes page space.
And you could have spent more of that page space that was taken by these 30 other plot lines, either doing more with Black Mask. If you had removed the Riddler stuff, if you had removed some of the stuff with Selina, the idea that the Falcones are back isn't the worst idea in the world.
You say that now, but I know where the story goes from here.
Yeah, I do too. And I know it gets worse. And it's a problem that we see now after the New 52 and the rewrite, that Carmine is alive again. And he's currently appearing in Catwoman. It feels weird for a character who had a definitive story. Long Halloween is the definitive story of the Roman. And anytime they've tried to use him since, that was the thing in Batman Eternal. If they had used Mario Falcone there, I don't know if it would have had the same oomph. Because again, you get the Roman back, and the Roman has presence that Mario doesn't. But you take something away from Long Halloween by having the Roman alive again. I remember who comes back along with Mario towards the end of this run. And this is a run that is weirdly, we've talked about this with other things, it's weirdly choppy. Because you've got this arc, then you have a 2-issue with the Riddler, then Morrison is back for 3 issues and then a one-off. Then you have another arc by Daniel. Then you have this crossover involving Azrael for an issue or two. Then you have one more arc, and then a one-off before the New 52, and Daniel never gets to wrap up any of the stuff he's setting up involving the Falcones and Katrina Falcone, the mysterious Falcone daughter who's introduced here and who becomes Catwoman's sidekick by the end.
I have to wonder if a part of this is, at first he knew, all right, well, Morrison will be bringing Bruce back, so I've got a limited window, and he wasn't sure how long he would have Dick as Batman, so let's get as many of these ideas in as possible. And then once Morrison brings Bruce back, but doesn't remove the cowl from Dick, oh, that means I've got time to add more stories, and this will keep going, and then New 52.
Yeah. Because I'm going to just spoil it because, again, it's not something we're ever going to... We'll wind up reading because we'll theoretically wind up reading everything. A couple arcs down the line, it turns out that Mario is currently being manipulated by Gilda.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Gilda is running the mobs of Gotham along with Mario.
I alluded
really
to this
dumb.
as one of the horrible stories that I would talk about if I ever snap and have a psychotic break. So,
and speaking of snapping and having a psychotic break,
yes,
let's talk about Black Mask here. Because Black Mask here is doing... the original Black Mask, Roman Sionis, he led a mob, and then during the No Man's Land, he led a cult. But he always had this coterie behind him of false facers. Here, Black Mask is basically mind controlling numerous people and paying those who he wants to work for him, and is suffering from something to the effect of dissociative personality disorder. The person under the mask is regularly arguing with the mask.
And that is one thing that I really like, not necessarily in the execution, but just as how Dick is a very different Batman to Bruce, this Black Mask is pretty much just a Black Mask in name only. The way they operate is very different. The original was hands-on and in control. This one isn't even in control of himself and is in the shadows. The original was a sadist. This one has delusions of improving the lives of the people under him. The one thing that they both share in common, other than the mask, is that they both have an oversized ego. Sion has delusions of being the greatest gangster who ever ran Gotham, whereas this one, and shall we just spoil it now?
Please, we're going to have to talk about it in a minute anyway.
It's Jeremiah Arkham. It's Jeremiah Arkham who has dissociative identity disorder and is constantly reverting into the Black Mask identity and may or may not be having this identity pushed onto him by Strange and Fright, and as we'll soon see, possibly other people. He's definitely got an oversized ego because before the reveal, when Dick goes to Jeremiah to ask for a profile, well, we don't know much about him, but I can tell you is he must definitely be a genius, and he's definitely seems to care about the people under him.
Dick seems a bit perplexed by the fact that Jeremiah is speaking so highly of Black Mask. And let's be fair, Jeremiah Arkham has been hanging by a thread of sanity since the end of his first appearance. This is a guy who has been screwed with and manipulated by Zaz, by the Joker. Regularly, he has come close to breaking. It was really only a matter of time. We don't see it here because it's in one of the Battle for the Cowl tie-ins. But after Le Bessu, the hunchback from the Club of Villains and the Black Glove, breaks open Arkham, he tortured Jeremiah too. And that's what finally snapped him completely. And he entered this dissociative fugue. We don't get a lot of details on what further pushed him, but that was the straw that sort of broke him, and something others screwed with him more to make him this Black Mask. It is something that's never revealed. We don't get a ton of details on what exactly happened to him.
You get a sense in the next story of where that road was going.
Yes. Again, it is unfortunate that there were clearly ideas here to do more with this character. And then the New 52 happens and he's just Jeremiah Arkham, administrator of Arkham Asylum again.
Again, I don't have issues with this trajectory for Jeremiah. It does make a logical sense that you would snap. And it's just, again, this is ostensibly a Black Mask story. He's firmly on the cover of the trade. And yet, in terms of page count, he's in maybe a sixth of the total story, because there's just so much else that's going on around it. Damn shame.
Yeah, and he's being manipulated by Fright, who is, again, D-list at best. Hugo Strange and Dr. Death are floating around. We have to fill in all the stuff with Devil Square, and once again, another of the, what did Josh Wheel call it? The President Lex problem, the things that seemed outlandish at the time. And now the fact that we had the idea that the National Guard could just storm into a U.S. city and start breaking heads to get at criminals. That here where Gordon and Batman are trying to hold back the National Guard so civilians don't get hurt and Batman can stop what's going on in Devil Square. And granted, there the president actually agreed versus egging them on, but we don't need to go into that right now. But it's just there's so many elements of this story, and none of them get as much page space as they deserve. I mean, no one is willing to talk to Dick in Devil's Square about Black Mask, and then the kid who's willing to talk to him gets shot by one of Black Mask's snipers. That should have been something that was a big deal. And it gets about 3 pages. A couple pages of Dick standing outside the hospital as the kid fights for his life. And then a page where Huntress tells him that the kid died and Dick is sad.
I actually highlighted that page because he starts off sad and then it cuts to him on top of a gargoyle glowering at the reader, which is an odd choice.
Yes. It is one of these things where you introduced an interesting idea, an idea that Dick isn't as used to losing in that way that Bruce is over all these years. And so it would have been something to sit and investigate. And it would have been great for him to have a conversation with Alfred about it. That's what you have Alfred for.
Exactly.
But you don't have the time for it because you've got to suddenly add the Mad Hatter into the story out of nowhere.
Kids love Mad Hatter, Matt.
And forget that Riddler was in there. And then, well, again, that was setting up the next arc of the book. That the next arc is the Riddler story.
But there's no need for it to be here. The Riddler stuff is literally just a few pages. There's no reason that couldn't have just been at the start of his arc anyway. But no, he goes a little too far and just has the Riddler cackling about, Edward Nigma is back. Whoa. And then for a couple of issues, and then he's talking to someone at a phone booth, and then do these add anything? No, they don't even add anything to Riddler's story when it happens. Same thing with Dick mourning Baby D.
Yep, Baby D.
Yeah, we get that moment on the gargoyle, and then we get a moment where he arguably goes even more scary than Bruce, where he starts interrogating Falcons, and when they don't give him the answer he wants, he burns down their house.
That was an homage to the end of Dark Victory. Because remember, Mario burns down the Falcone family estate at the end of Dark Victory. So that struck me as, okay, did we really need the callback to the end of Dark Victory of having Dick now burn down the new house?
Obviously, it was done for the homage, but I could have played along and went, okay, let's see where this is going. Are you going to have Dick get more unhinged and then learn, no, this method doesn't work for him, he needs to do something else? But no. Obviously, boring books are worse to read than frustrating books, but what makes this frustrating is there's so many ideas with just a little bit more development could have been interesting. Huntress being in this doesn't really add anything, but it could have been a nice commentary on how, unlike Bruce, who will only bring people in when he absolutely needs them, Dick has no qualms about just going, oh, I need help Huntress can do this, Barbara can do that. I've got Damien working on this in the background. That would have been interesting, but we don't get enough. And there's not enough time.
This feels like a year's worth of story crammed into 6 issues. You took the outline of your 12-issue arc and chopped it up and squeezed it into a 6-issue arc. So nothing is given the room it needs to breathe and to fully develop.
Oh, Christ. I've just remembered how this ends with, it turns out that Katrina Falcone is the newest member of the Falcone family introduced in this. And Selina decides, I will take up a legacy character myself, and the new Catgirl is here. Ignoring the fact that Pfeiffer literally just had her set up Holly as a legacy Catwoman already. It's redundant. And why?
And again, since it feels like Daniel is calling on all of the Long Halloween Dark Victory stuff, if indeed Katrina is the youngest daughter of the Roman, she's Selina's little sister. So that would make sense as to why Selina is taking her under her wing. There's a couple of vague references to Selina saying, oh, I know all there is to know about the Falcone bloodline. But it's not made clear if you don't remember that element at the end of Dark Victory where Selina reveals that, yes, she's actually the Roman's daughter. You don't understand why she is willing to take Katrina in.
And again, I wouldn't mind so much if this was just set up for the next story, but it's just another thing that will do no payoff and will be completely forgotten.
That's always the question with this era. How much of that do you blame on Daniel and how much on that do you blame on Dan Didio in the New 52? Because Daniel might have had the chance to do more of this if he hadn't been shuffled off to Detective Comics with the New 52 and all of the things he was doing were overwritten by continuity changes, and instead he has to, introduce the doll maker and have the Joker cut his own face off. Let's not forget, that's a Daniel thing.
Editorial has a lot of the blame, but it would be one thing if the next story arcs would just carry on the stories that Daniel's setting up, but that is not what happens. The next stories just keep introducing more stuff. We get one thing that has payoff where the Riddler firmly goes back into, the Riddler and drops the PI stuff. And then Daniel's next story arc is Ra's al Ghul.
Right, you're right. Yep, it's the Ra's al Ghul and then Gilda. Then he's bringing back Two-Face and Gilda in his last arc. Because why not?
Do you get the sense that he really wanted to do, a Dark Victory follow-up, but they're like, nah, man, you can't actually do that?
Yes, I really do feel like this was his idea to do a follow-up to all of the Loeb sale stuff, and DC realized they had to turn into the skid on it. Be like, no, you got to stop. No. This is why we're not giving you a last issue to wrap this up. We're having Fabian Nicieza come in and do the last issue or two of this volume before the New 52, and now you're over in Detective introducing villains who no one will ever use ever again.
But again, if all he was wanting to do was follow-ups to the Falcone stuff, why all this other stuff at the start of the arc as well? It's a problem from the very beginning. It's not something that just got out of hand as the story went on. It's all that stuff from the beginning. And the saddest point about this is, as frustrating as this is the high point of this run.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, no.
And it does look good.
Right.
Daniel is a really good artist.
I saved the art for last because I want to end on a high note. But two things I want to point out. I miss older Jim Gordon. Not just grey, completely white-haired. Clearly should have retired 10 years ago, but god damn it, I'm the only good cop on this job, and Gotham needs me.
I miss sexy Jim Gordon.
Well, who's to say he isn't?
Oh,
Silver Fox.
I love that contrasted with this much younger looking Batman, even though all you can see is the cowl. He doesn't have the rough edges that Daniel draws Bruce in. And especially if you compare how he draws Batman in this to how he drew him in R.I.P., Bruce was built like a tank, whereas even though he's clearly Batman, Dick is still very much a slimmer, athletic build. Even when he's in armor, he's less built than Bruce shirtless.
Yes, completely. Daniel does a good job of making Dick look like his own Batman, which not every artist did.
Granted, he struggles to make Damian look anything other than a Tim Drake clone, but Tim Drake is in his awful, awful Red Robin costume, so at least we don't need to confuse him.
True. The full cowl does a good job.
I'm pretty sure that splash page that includes Red Robin is purely there to irritate people who don't like that costume, just to remind us, oh, look, he's here. He doesn't have any dialogue or any importance to the story, but he's here.
Wildcat was there too with no dialogue either. It's always good to see Wildcat show up in Gotham.
At least Wildcat was a supporting character in Selina's book at the time, so his presence made sense.
True. Good call.
But Tim Drake is traveling the world doing his weird nervous breakdown at this point. Why is he back in Gotham?
The end of that first year of Red Robin, the final confrontation between Tim and Ra's is in Gotham. So depending on where this lines up, we might be right around the time of Tim's return. I'm not necessarily defending it. I would have to go back and look. But we could be right around the right time for Tim to be returning to Gotham. I think I'm trying to come up with an excuse. I think Daniel just wanted to put Tim there.
I'm not going to begrudge him. He's a good enough artist.
Yeah.
So. But the fact that we're trying to figure out where the timeline of other books fit in with this story means that I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, that means it's time of Batman 692, 697, Life After Death on the big board.
Well, the immediate ceiling that Matt pointed out, this is at least, well, the immediate flaw is it's least better than Battle for the Cowl, which is damning with faint praise, but still.
Indeed. So that's 477. So we are above 477. But I think it's below Backward Masking at 412.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So we're in between 412 and 477.
Backward Masking has problems, but I will pick it up again. This one I literally only picked up for this, and it will be forgotten as soon as we're done tonight.
So let me, just looking at something, throwing this out. So 443, so sort of right in the middle of that run, is Everyone Loves Ivy. The story where Tom King has Poison Ivy take over the world because everyone eats vegetables, and somehow Harley Quinn's PhD in psychology allows her to be a brain surgeon.
That is one bad idea executed roughly. This is several potentially good ideas with no room.
I did really loathe that story in a way that I don't loathe this one.
And that one I think winds up as high because the Mikel Janine art is absolutely gorgeous. And there are some really good Bruce and Selina moments at the beginning. That is when Tom King, for all the other faults, his Bruce and Selina rapport is excellent. So, all right, so we're above 443 then.
I would not put this above Brave in the Mold at 425, which obviously has its own problems, but is a lot tighter at just one issue.
And I think we're going to get there in a minute. Both this and the next story have a ceiling then at 427, Arkham Asylum Living Hell. I don't think either of them go above Living Hell, because that is a better chaos going on in Arkham Asylum story than the next one, and I think is still generally better than this. What about the Cursed Wheel at 437? Speaking of other stories that the ending of them doesn't really get what the writer was hoping for, that I think Snyder wanted more to do with Duke and never got it. And I think it's the same problem here.
Although in his very own book, Snyder could have made it happen. I was still Scott Snyder. I'd say this is probably below that.
So that puts us really narrow between 437 and 443. And at least one of those, Batman and Son, that's a re-rank waiting to happen. That needs to be reevaluated. How about in between Riddler in the Dark, speaking of Riddler stories, and Thicker Than Water? So the new 439.
Sounds good to me.
And our final story of the night is Arkham Reborn. This is Batman Arkham Reborn numbers 1 to 3. The writer is David Hine, with pencils by Jeremy Hawn, inks by Hawn, Jack Purcell, and John Lucas, colors by John Callis, letters by Sal Cipriano, and edited by Mike Martz and Janel Aslan. The cover dates are December of 2009 to February of 2010. Jeremiah Arkham has rebuilt Arkham Asylum after it was busted open by Black Mask, and he wants to make a more caring institution dedicated to healing his patients. Not everyone involved with the asylum has the same care in mind, and Jeremiah's sanity is slipping, putting him closer and closer to his patients.
I've got a question for the both of you.
Yes.
Is there any greater omen of doom in Gotham than Arkham Asylum getting modern security features added to it?
It really is asking for trouble. There's a point in the story where it turns out that the new Arkham has a whole other level built into it. And Arkham's
Sub-Arkham.
Right. How could this have happened? And I wanted to say, Jeremiah, Jerry, Booby, in your very first appearance in the last Arkham, when you were rebuilding Arkham Asylum, Zsasz bribed the architect to build tunnels so he could sneak out. It's not even the first time this has happened to you, let alone to this asylum.
Fun fact, there's even blueprints for an underground Arkham sub-basement in Battle for the Cowl. Well, one of the tie-ins anyway. The Arkham one, actually.
Rebuilt Arkham Asylum always ends poorly for everybody involved.
And how many times have we rebuilt Arkham?
How many years has Batman ran?
I can think of it being a big story point 5 times. So you've got the original build of Arkham Asylum. Then you have the last Arkham, where Jeremiah makes his first appearance. He basically keeps the facade and rebuilds the entire asylum. That gets blown up in Nightfall. And in an arc of Shadow of the Bat, you then have another old mansion, the Mercy Mansion, made into the new Arkham. That is Arkham through here, where it gets blown up during Battle for the Cowl, and is rebuilt here in Arkham Reborn. And then theoretically, the next time it is rebuilt is as Arkham Tower during the Tamaki Detective. Of course, there's multiversal shenanigans in there with moving it around.
We're also not counting occasions where the asylum almost got completely demolished, like in Hell, where demons swarmed the entire structure. Yep.
Or No Man's Land.
But the outer frame technically is still standing. We'll count it as a win.
Exactly. Same with No Man's Land, where Jeremiah just opens it up and lets everybody out right before the city gets locked down, figuring it would be better to make sure they were all in the heart of Gotham, because at that point Arkham was on the other side of the bridge. So if bridges had been broken, all the villains would have been on the America side of the bridge. But Jeremiah figured, let's just let them all into the city so they're all trapped there away from everybody else. And they all went into the city, except for the Riddler, who went to Keystone, because Eddie is many things, but he's not going to wander into the city that's about to be cut off from the rest of the country.
Again, it's the biggest twist of this entire arc with Jeremiah is that it's took this long for him to snap.
Yes. The idea that we are watching Jeremiah Arkham unravel is a good idea. And I think there are aspects of it that are handled well. The problem is that the reason why I immediately said the ceiling for this is going to be Living Hell is that Living Hell introduces Great White Shark and Humpty Dumpty and Jane Doe, actually. So 3 villains who have actually had weight and multiple appearances over the course of Batman history. Raggedy Man and Alice Sinner are not in the same league as even Jane Doe, the least of those 3, let alone Great White Shark.
Alice Sinner in particular has the dubious distinction of being the second Alice that year introduced to Menace Gotham. The first one being Alice Kane.
Yeah. Kate's sister. One thing I will say here, and Pascal, we've waited for the end on this. I think Jeremy Hahn was an excellent choice for the artist for this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this book looks great.
Yeah, it's got a real sense of grit and menace and creepiness. And the covers on the first 2 issues do as well. I do not understand how, like, okay, we're going to get Fraser Irving to do issues 1 and 2, and then Guillaume March to do a Batman fighting villains cover on issue 3, as opposed to these weird, moody Jeremiah Arkham face covers that you had in the first 2. It just didn't make sense to me. I wish there had been a little more consistency in those covers.
I get the feeling that this is something that was again cut short because Bruce Wayne is about to return, so we don't know how long Dick is going to have the cowl. And then once Morrison is back doing Batman Incorporated, David Hine does Jeremiah's last story, well, before the reboot, in those backups in Detective Comics. I think it's called Beneath the Mask.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So it very much feels like oh crap, we need to wrap this up faster than we thought. And oh wait, we can actually go back and wrap this up more satisfactorily. But that's not the story we've got today. But alas.
No, yeah, because those last 2, the follow-up to this is a 2-part fill-in where the book is basically split 50-50 in between half of it is this, and half of it are the last 2 chapters of the Montoya question backups by Rucka before Black Mirror starts right after that. It really felt like they squeezed in the wrap-up of this there as we need something to take up this space, so let's let David Hine do that. Hine was doing actually a bunch of Bat stuff at this point. He was doing this, and he was doing the Azrael ongoing, the Michael Lane Azrael ongoing, I believe, at the same time. He's not a bad writer. He did District X over at Marvel, the sort of attempt to do an X-Men flavored Gotham Central, which was a better idea than it was a book. But I think I don't necessarily fault Hine for all of that. It's like, oh, let's do this book. And just as he's kind of getting into the swing of it, it was M-Day. And so when you're doing a book set in the neighborhood of New York that's all mutants, and then all the mutants lose their powers, it kind of kills the momentum of your book a little.
Yeah. I could have had more of this story. If the whole premise is sort of the downfall of Jeremiah Arkham, I want to see the whole thing, right? I want to see him completely, cracking up and becoming Black Mask. And like I said when we started talking about this, like you certainly get the sense of where he's going, and it's not a surprise that he ends where he ends, but I want to see the entire course. And I enjoyed this story. I thought his increasingly sweaty desperation and all of the machinations around him, setting him up for failure. Like I think it's a solid idea. I just, like I said, wanted more of it.
The last story was too many ideas crammed into too little space. This was one idea that needed more room versus too many ideas in too little space.
It's sad because it even starts off where even when he's unveiling the asylum for the first time before things have gone wrong, you can already see that no one believes it in his work. You've got Gordon just treating the place as, oh, this is where we'll keep the freaks to get them out of the city's hand. You've got Bruce Wayne, who seems supportive, but obviously is actually Tommy Elliott doing his own up. And Alice Sinner is playing the part of, oh, I am your supportive subordinate, when she is actively plotting his downfall the entire time. It's tragic that he genuinely had good intentions. It's one of the few Batman rogues that did have good intentions.
Kate Spencer, district attorney who moonlights as a violent vigilante. Let's not forget that. Kate is Manhunter.
That's right, yes. I couldn't remember of identity.
Speaking of books that didn't... Manhunter lasted a good 3 years, but that was a great comic. And she had a series of backups in Streets of Gotham. With, speaking of, Jane Doe from Living Hell was the villain in that first set of backups there. But yeah, here you do feel kind of bad for Jeremiah. And not terribly bad because he is a pompous ass. Like,
Oh,
he's not a great guy and he's very full of himself. If he had listened to Aaron Cash,
Making his first appearance in DC Comics.
No, his first appearance was Living Hell.
Why did I misremember that? I could have sworn reading in the video game that it was Arkham Reborn.
No,
But
it's
yeah.
Arkham Asylum, Living Hell.
Yeah.
He gets his hand bitten off by Croc during Living Hell.
And that's why he absolutely hates Croc in this book.
But he was a creation of the video games, right?
No, he was
No.
a
Shit, I'm
minor...
misremembering everything about this man.
He was
popularized by the video games because most people who don't read comics had no idea who he was until then.
His first appearance was Living Hell, which was a weirdly self-contained miniseries, and he didn't appear anywhere else until the video games. And then we get him here because people knew who he was at that point.
Shit.
One thing that I appreciate, which, again, not enough space for it. In the previous story, we got the idea that Jeremiah was being manipulated by Scarecrow.
Right. In the Ministry of Science.
Yeah, joy. Anyway, it's interesting that here, now, he's actually being manipulated by Alice Sinner. And this has got nothing to do with any of the manipulations that happen in life after death. And then at the very end, wait, is Joker somehow involved in this? And of course, by this point, he's having full-on hallucinations and a psychiatric breakdown. It's interesting that they're not giving him a firm origin for why he's had this break.
You think in the end, I kind of feel like he just had this psychotic break and all the different people manipulating him just made it worse. Everyone was playing this guy to the point that he just snapped. Spoilers for those who haven't read the final 2 issues that tie this whole thing up. Both the Jester and his 3 beauties, these 3 patients that he has in the Secret Arkham, that's all in his head. It is a massive delusion.
Oh, that's no good.
And it makes sense when you think about, so he's being taken over by the Black Mask, and it's this whole thing with the faces and visages, and all 3 of those patients, their particular pathology involves faces. It's all about persona. So it's all a massive delusion. And he's really far gone by this point.
And it would make sense as he views those 3 as his greatest successes. That makes sense.
It's all in his head. And one thing I did like was that the same scene that we got in Life After Death at the Arkham Gala, from Dick's point of view, we get the exact same set of events, but from Jeremiah's point of view here. And I think that was a really interesting way to do that Rashomon style, just showing
That's how I remember it.
Right. He's just so far gone, poor Jeremiah here. Even as a pompous ass, you do feel bad for him by the end as everything is falling apart around him.
One thing I'll say about that scene as well, even though Hush is doing his very best Bruce Wayne impersonation and Jeremiah is really down the deep end, even he can see through Tommy's bullshit.
Yeah, Tommy is not very good at being Bruce Wayne. He's just very much not. I understand the need for security and all of this, but the fact that they have basically low-level Suicide Squad chips in the heads of all of the rogues, they're not going to blow up your head. They're just going to deliver an electric shock. That's still not good.
No. But
I guess it's better than letting Croc eat people again.
Especially since the moment things start going wrong, we have yet another catastrophic riot in the final issue of this. Croc, Freeze, Clearface.
Yeah, and the poor Raggedy Man. That was...
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh, this is, again, a one-off character introduced here. Poor guy is questionable. I mean, he was a serial killer.
It's the same sort of thing as Humpty Dumpty in Living Hell, where he's got a sympathetic backstory, but he's also done truly horrific violence.
Yes. And in the end here winds up doing truly horrific violence to himself.
Yes. In which we revealed that Alice Sinner's real name was Jigsaw, apparently.
I like that. Good comp right there.
Even manipulating her voice so that it sounds like Amadeus Arkham.
And watching her, it's weird. You have these moments of her using this program to sound like Amadeus and appear on the screen. And you watch her like eating, and she's like, her mouth is caked in food. It's like, if you had any doubt that she was not just evil but really unbalanced, it's clear that she is all of those things.
Getting back to her name, Alice Sinner, first it's a name that she picked for herself. But also the fact that she plays with her braids and each ribbon has a sin listed on it, and she is acting out that sin in that moment. So when she pulls out the wrath braid, she's talking about, I will ruin you, Jeremiah. When she pulls out the lust braid, it's, oh, I want to be with you, Black Mask, and so on and so forth. There's a quote from a series called Dark Place that really fits. I know of writers who use subtlety, and they're all cowards.
Yeah, no, Alice is very much an on-the-nose sort of villain.
Even though, yes, she's as subtle as a shovel to your face several times, there are some nice subtle touches. So the jester delusion that Jeremiah has at the end feels like it comes out of nowhere. But at the same time, with the beauties, you see them constantly painting clown faces on themselves. And one really nice touch is he's got a drawer in his office where he keeps the Ragged Man's can opener, like just keeps that in confiscation. That's it. And in some panels, you see the Jester's Marot, the stick with the clown face on it. And when it appears there, it's not talked about. You just see Jeremiah putting it in the drawer. But because you know that this is a drawer for contraband, it doesn't flag, oh, he's been wielding it himself just in his delusions. It just looks like he's just putting another bit of contraband away, which is a nice little bit of seeding. But again, this feels like a 4 or 5 issue miniseries that got condensed into 3.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. There was more that could have been mined here for this story to work.
And again, he does briefly come back to this in Detective, but it's another case of this is set up and wow, all for notice. Yeah, that's pretty much the overarching theme of all of these picks. Both Black Masks are technically different people, and these are all different stories, but all of them were ruined by editorial in one way or another.
Yep. I think that does it for this.
Oh, that means it's time for Batman Arkham Reborn on the big board.
I would say
we have slotted a ceiling is 427, I believe.
Yes, Living Hell.
But at the same time, this is definitely better than Life After Death. Both of them are ideas that aren't given enough room, but this at least has focus. It's not 8 different ideas with more on the way in future issues. So
yeah,
I concur with Mr. Hopper on that point. So we are between 427 and 439.
I think we are between 427 and 432. The Redemption Road, the Cassandra Cain 6-issue miniseries where she's hunting Deathstroke and her dad. I think this is better than that.
So above 432.
Yes. So between 427 and 432.
Above or below Two-Face Strikes Twice?
That's where I'm looking, because I think it's either above or below that. I think above.
All right, new 429.
Well, Sam, thank you as ever for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's a joy as always. I have nothing to plug, and if you think you see me on social media, you don't. Ignore it. Move on.
It's a fake.
So in lieu of that, I just want to say there's a lot of great stuff on the bonus feed. If you're listening to this and haven't subscribed to the Batchat Patreon, please consider it. There's a lot of good there.
And we appreciate that.
It's a much classier plug when it's coming from somebody else.
Yes.
Remind me to give you my PayPal details for later.
That does it for this week. Next week, it's 3 stories with Batman meeting the ductile detective, the Elongated Man. Remember, you can support the podcast on Patreon, as Sam just said, at patreon.com/batchat with Matt and Will, where you can get shoutouts, bonus content, pick a story, and even come on the show. We'd like to thank those Patreon backers: Dan Grote, Josh Wheel, Mrs. Abigail Hartbaum, Asma Fangirl, Tony Thornley,
Go Aggies.
Sam Hopper.
Hey, go to bed, Sam. It's still pretty late.
I'm in bed. What more do you want?
Make sleeps.
John Wickham,
John, you beautiful boy, you.
Tim Rooney, Giorgio Sregioli, David Wheel,
World's greatest gray belt.
Alexander Wheel, Matt McThorne,
McThorny.
Dan Offer,
Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
Nate Randell, Daniel Mosley, Ross Holmes,
Mr. Random Ace.
Will Crisp,
Me compadre.
Carlos Cordova, Jordan Jennings, Charlie Etheridge Nunn, Sean Shambly, The Final Wraith,
The scariest wraith.
Kyle Still,
Still the one.
and Carolyn Smith.
Sweet Caroline.
For their support. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music/Audible, YouTube Music, Podbean, and on comicsxf.com. New episodes drop every Thursday. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I talk about comics and other random things, and Letterboxd, where I review all the movies I watch, both at MattLaz1013.
Oh, and I continue to be on both places at Will Nevin and on Goodreads at Will Nevin. And I was going to say on Twitter on Tinder at Will Nevin, but nope, not there. At least not under my real name. Let's see. What am I going to do? It's light outside. I feel like I got the whole day ahead of me. So I'm not going to go to bed. I'm going to stay conscious for a few more hours. But when I do, good night, Huntsville.
And be sure to visit ComicsXF at comicsxf.com or ComicsXF on Blue Sky for our weekly Friday Batchat roundup of new Bat books. For my other show, the ComicsXF Interview Podcast, where my longtime best friend Dan Grote and I interview comics creators, retailers, publishers, journalists, and other related tradespeople, as well as all the other stuff Will and I are writing. And stay safe out there, folks. Gotham is not a place to be after dark.